What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. We finally got our part. Yeah, it took forever. It actually didn't end up coming on Saturday. It came on Monday. So we'll ignore that. That's a different box. But in here is our other gasket. So now we can finally start putting everything back together. We can finally, at least get a good chunk of it done today. My goal for this video is to have our manifold seated and torqued properly, our injectors in, and our thermostat in, our hose hooked back up. That's my goal for today's video. Oh, and to also put that sensor into that, stuff like that. I have a list somewhere around here. I have a list of all the stuff that we have to do today. But first, let's set these gaskets on the heads and make sure that these are correct before we even hop into anything. Alright, so there we have it. They fit up perfectly. I'm right now taking a double take over things, and I am just making sure that our gasket is not blocking or covering any coolant passage, any head intake, everything. I'm just, making sure that once I put this thing on, I should not have any issues, and from what I can tell right now, we should be completely in the clear. Now, before we actually get seating our intake manifold back onto the heads, we have to remove, I believe it is our coolant temperature sensor, out of our old one and put it in the new one. Now, I was contemplating getting a new temperature sensor, but I figured, it'll save a little money if we just swap that over, because there's been nothing wrong with the old one. So we're just gonna swap that one over. We're gonna put some more, I can't think of what it's called. The white tape. I can't think of what it's called. I'm having a brain fart. If I can't remember it, let me know in the comments below what that's called, because I honestly completely forgot. But I have plenty of it. I just forgot what it is. For anyone wondering out there, it's actually a 19 millimeter. I figured it'd be like an 18 or something, but it's actually a 19 millimeter. And there we go. Yeah, see, there's nothing wrong with this. It's not dirty or anything. Now, I am gonna be extremely careful. I'm not gonna touch the end of this because I don't wanna risk messing it up. But now, let's get some new, whatever this stuff is called on here. And then let's put it in our manifold. I remember the name now, Teflon tape. It took me a second, but I got it. Just thread that on in. And now, this wasn't sticking out very far in our old manifold, so we are just gonna give this a nice snug, like that. I might do one more thread, actually, just to play it on the safe side, because I don't want to risk this leaking or anything like that. And there we have it. Now that our sensor is in, we can grab our bolts, and well, first let's actually seat this thing down and make sure that it sits in there good, that it's not lopsided or nothing like that. And there we go. We got it in. Oh. Just trying to figure out what just drove by. I don't know what it is. You guys might be able to hear that, but it's backfiring like crazy right now. I don't know what it is. Didn't drive down our street. It must have drove on the street over there. But sorry, I got a little sidetracked. But anyways, look at that. It sits in there perfectly. I mean, it lines up, as far as I can tell, it lines up perfectly with everything that we need. Everything's out of the way, but it's still all easy access, so we can actually, you know, get to everything. Our sensor just plugs in right like that. But now, before I plug that in, let me go grab the bolts, and we'll seat this thing, and then we have to torque it. And I have the torque spec right here. 15 to 22 foot-pounds, and then you retorque it when your engine is hot. Now that's going to be a little while, so we're just going to torque it to the 15 to 22 foot-pounds. I'm going to do 20. I'll do like 22 just to be safe. I always like to go on the heavier side when it comes to torquing, just to make sure that everything is pressed down right, and that way we don't have to worry about it coming back up or anything. Also, another quick tip is when you take old bolts out, and if they're rusty, make sure that you guys clean them up, whether it's with a wire brush, I have an attachment that goes on my drill. Just make sure that you guys clean it up good, so that way when you put it back in, one, you won't have any issues, and two, you don't have to worry about it ever corroding on you and then breaking and then having to do what I did with the thermostat. So just a little tip for you guys. Actually, guys, I take that back. I'm looking at an official manual here, and it says to only torque them to 18. So, never mind. We are going to be doing 18 instead. I wasn't quite sure, and then I looked up the proper sequence that you were supposed to torque these bolts in, and it says to only torque them to 18 and to not over tighten whatsoever. So, now that we have the proper torque sequence, it is very crucial that you follow the exact manufacturer torquing sequence. So that way you get proper fitment, proper seating, and no leaks. All right, everything seats up perfectly. Now, I'm going to torque these bolts down, and before we do anything else, I need to make sure that our thermostat housing bolts are long enough to still get into the threads, and that way I can torque them and tighten them down. Because if not, then we're gonna have to clean up this one and then run to a hardware store and get another, like a hardware bolt or something. Because if you guys don't remember, in the previous video, those bolts are a lot shorter. Well, not a lot, but they're shorter than the originals. And that could potentially be an issue. It might not reach the threads, or it might not get a good enough grip. So after we torque this down and tighten it, we are just gonna set the top of the housing on top, and then we're just gonna make sure that our bolts seat and, you know, grab nice and good. I just realized that I accidentally mismatched 8 and 9. If anybody's looking to do this at home, I will include the link to this diagram in the description below, so that way you guys can just reference off of that instead of this, because I just realized that 7 is this side, not that side. So my bad. I'm sorry about that, guys. There's 1. There's 2. There's 3. There's 4. 6. There's 7. There's 8. And that was our last bolt. Okay, guys, we are back. It's a little later than what I wanted, but I had to run and do a few things. First, I wanted to get a coffee. And then secondly, I had to go pick up some more silicone lubricant to make sure that our O-ring gets proper seating and it doesn't, you know, tear up or rip or anything, and it just slides right in there nice and easy. And also, while I was at it, I got some more rags, because due to the Rona, I have no gloves, so my hands are getting dirty, and I don't want to use up all of my blue shop rags or anything like that. So I just went and bought a pack of them. It's really cheap for, you know, a big thing of rags, so I'm not complaining. Now, I did do some research about these bolts, and I found out that these are actually off of the SN95 Mustangs. Now, you know, this is considered an SN95, but it's more commonly called a New Edge. Now, when I say SN95, I mean 94 to 98. Well, these are actually the factory bolts that were on the 94 to 98, not the 99 to 04. That's why they look different. But they will still fit exactly the same, and There shouldn't be any issues at all. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna lube up this O-ring and lube up the surface inside of there just to make sure that everything seats real easy. And then we're gonna set our housing on top and we're gonna slowly crank down and allow that O-ring to slide in there and seal properly. Now it's important, guys, as you are seating this gasket, you can use the one that comes on the Mishimoto one. That's what it's for. Make sure that you have both the bolts in. It's a bit of a process. That's why I didn't record it, because you got to fight with it a little bit. But once you get it sat there, just go back and forth until it is perfectly flush, and then torque it to spec. You have got to be kidding me. Hold on. Yeah, if you can't already see what just happened, let me be more than happy to show you what just happened as I was installing the new thermostat. Now, as you can tell, the bolts are just fine. Yet somehow, I just cracked that. See, I was seating the gasket, perfectly fine. You know what? We're just not gonna use this gasket. We're going to just go to the auto parts store and buy one tomorrow, because this thing's putting up a fight that I don't want to deal with. But look at this. I just cracked the housing. And it wasn't even tight either. I mean, I was just barely, starting to snug it down into place. It was almost fully seated. Yeah, it was almost completely ready to sit in there. And no, at the very last second, right as I was about to get a final good one on it, it cracked. We're gonna have to hold off on that. But in the meantime, I guess, let's put our fuel injectors on. This car must hate me. This car really must not want to go back together. I mean, look at that. That is a huge crack. I can't use this part now. So, looks like we're gonna upgrade this too. I saw a Canton Performance one online, 50 bucks. So, looks like that's what we're doing now. Okay. We got our fuel injectors in. We have the rails sitting in place. And for right now, we're actually going to put the coils back in. I was going to do a tune-up on it, but that's the least of my concerns right now. I'm not too worried about it. It ran fine to begin with, so I'm not worried about it. I'm just going to leave it how they are for now. But we have ran into two small issues. I mean, it's literally nothing bad. So, on our old stock manifold here, if you notice, most of the bolts that go into this, I'll pull one out here and show it to you. Very, very spaced out, very coarse threads. It's kind of like create your own thread in the plastic sort of thing. But on this one over here, there's little brass bits where every bolt needs to go, and it has a correct size to it. Now, thankfully, one of the bolts on here that holds the alternator bracket is the correct size for our fuel rails, and then for our coils, it's just one size smaller. So it's 9:40 something at night, and all the hardware stores are closed. But tomorrow, I'm gonna take that bolt, and we're going to go and get bolts so that way our fuel rails are held in place along with our coils. But other than that, that's gonna wrap it up for this video. I have no other work to do to this thing as of right now. I will also be running and getting an end cap so we can fully delete our EGR system off of this car, because we don't need it. It's pointless at this point. There's no going back. I tried once again to look online and find an end cap for the manifold that sold as just the end cap, but nobody sells them. The only place that sells a kit with an end cap is Lethal Performance. But the thing is, over on that shelf right there, yeah, that shelf, I have an EGR delete kit already. It comes with the plate and the bolts and a new gasket, but it didn't come with an end cap, and I didn't know that this sold a kit with an end cap. So I'm not gonna go waste money and then just have two kits laying around, because I don't plan on owning another 2-valve. Not that I don't like these cars, not that I don't like how they look or anything, it's just, it'd be pointless for me to own more than one, But in next video, we are going to be putting on our nice new billet aluminum thermostat housing, new gasket, because the old one tore. And we're going to put our hose on. We should be able to mostly wrap this up, if not completely finish it by next video. I'm going to be ordering our new throttle body, our new cold air intake. I have a list. It's upstairs on sitting on my computer desk, but I have a list of everything that we need to order to make sure that this thing is going to run properly when we try to crank it over. But as always, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. As always, be sure to leave a like, comment down below if you guys want to see anything, if you guys have any tips, advice, anything. Make sure you comment it down below. Even hate, I don't care. Make sure you subscribe to the channel for weekly uploads. I've got our schedule down pat now. It'll be every Tuesday. Every Tuesday we will be uploading a video on the channel here. So stay tuned every Tuesday to watch a new update video, whether it's on the Mustang, on the truck, on anything. But like I was saying, subscribe, share this channel, help me grow it into something amazing. Thank you guys. See you next time.